So welcome back to the milk run. It's the weekend. Normally the milk run happens a couple of times a week, but this is the weekend one. I firstly thank you to everybody who subscribed and everybody who viewed the last video and all of the comments. It's been brilliant hearing from so many people, and also on Instagram, the amount of people who've reached out, and it's also the amount of people who are buying stuff and enjoying older and oldish cars. And that's one of the themes of this video. Wave to my neighbor. And that's one of the themes of this video, because there's a thing about buying classic cars, classic Porsches. Now when I say classic Porsches, I'm mostly focusing on 912s and 911s, not 914s, 914s, because I don't really know much about them. But there's a lot of people looking at them, and the variance in prices is huge. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that, but just a quick update about my 912. Nothing's really happening from that, apart from I have bought myself a phone holder, which is the one that goes around the clock, from Renline. I bought it from Design 911. It's a lot of money. I think it comes to almost £100. And I was thinking, if I had a 3D printer, could I just print it? Could I do that? Somebody out there will have one, let me know. The other thing is, I did buy some exhaust tip clamps for my 996. Now the problem with that is I tried to fit it. Now you have to be using both hands and to be able to see, and you can only do that if the car is jacked up and you're underneath it, and I haven't done that. I tried to just reach under the car and do it, and it was really frustrating and painful, and I hated every second of it, and I haven't done it, which is why the milk run is happening in the Golf. So yes, that's what happened. But other than that, I wanted to talk mostly about the classics. Now, if you're going, actually, I want a classic 911. By classic, I probably mean more in the 60s. Early 70s, yes, up to about 72. But now I've seen quite a few. So there's what looks like a really nice 912 from, I think it's 1972 maybe. It might not even be that new. I'll put a picture up of it. It's on eBay. It's £32,000, 912. Apparently it runs. It's being imported from the US. It's sandy beige. I can't remember which one it is. And it looks kind of patinaed. I really like the look of it. The interior is kind of light coloured. Apparently it runs and it's super solid. And you just think, that looks bargainous. Now, also, I think it's the same seller maybe on eBay who's also got a 911 2.4. It's a 1972, so it's got the oil clapper one, and that's £28,000. But it needs a lot of welding, but it's complete. But you've got no idea if the engine needs a rebuild or not. So. And that's a massive difference. So you're talking tens of thousands of pounds to get it welded if you're not doing it yourself, and probably about £10,000 to get the engine rebuilt. Now that engine rebuild is going to be complicated because it's the mechanical fuel injection model, the 2.4. So you're talking, thousands just to get that injection system rebuilt, because it's like a mini engine. Now, some people might say, yeah, but I can weld myself. In which case, you'd think, okay, I'm gonna put myself on the hook for every evening, every weekend, welding, doing mucky work where I'm not doing anything else, and months and months and months down the line, I may have a car that I can drive, or it'll just sit in my garage and I'll get bored of it, and years down the line, I'll flog it. You probably won't lose any money. I don't think you will, unless you deteriorate further. But this one looks fantastic on the outside. If I had the money, I'd probably buy it and just stick it in a garage, which I don't have. And then there's obviously there's the other end of the scale where you could probably spend 60, 70, 80,000 pounds on a working 911. That's not going to be brilliant, but you'll be able to properly enjoy it. Now, most people won't be able to afford that kind of money. I definitely can't. The kind of people who are looking across the spectrum won't be able to afford the 60, 70, 80,000 pounds. And I think if you can afford that kind of thing, it's a different kind of market. You just go and get all the checks done. You can go and find somebody to find you that car who almost guarantees its quality. So when you get it, you just literally just start driving it and you know it's going to work, because they properly give it a once over. You have to pay a fee. It's kind of car finders. Maybe I should set myself up like that. It's a thought. But on the other hand, there'll be and also there's I always find there's slightly less fun in that. You know, there's people who love cars and who are enthusiasts and who are passionate about cars and they want to get into the nitty-gritty, and there's people who like cars but they've got bags of money, so they can just go and buy anything they see, enjoy it, flog it, don't really care about the loss, and just move on to the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. Whereas people like me, I want to know about the ins and outs of it. I like to drive around problems, if that makes sense. So I probably get more pleasure out of driving a car that's got its own quirks. If you imagine every car, every 911 drives exactly as it should have done from the factory, then one similar model to another there'll be no difference between them if you're driving one or the other. Whereas I feel like cars of an age, they'll have a personality, and I like discovering that personality and getting to know that car, but that's just me. But anyway, so that's that end of the scale. If you can just go out and say, I want a 911, I like the look of that one, I'll just go and buy it, and I'll get somebody to guarantee that it is what the ad says, and I'm not going to get stung, and I can use it from day one. But most people like me will be looking at the lower end of the scale. Now, that 28,000 one that I just talked about, that needs loads of welding. Right, the road's clear. Knock it down into sport, not race, and holy schmoly, holy mother of, oh my god, that is just ridiculous. That's ridiculous. We're still in sport. I mean, it just doesn't stop accelerating. I mean, it's mad. By the way, this is the Golf R 7.5 with a digital dash, so it looks exactly the same as the 7, but there's a few differences, and it's got the digital dash, and we've gone for the stereo upgrade. I'm not really a big fan of total touchscreen. I know I've got the buttons on the steering wheel, but I'm not really sure what a lot of them do. And on the screen, if you hit a bump and you end up pressing the wrong thing, then I'm trying to work out how to get back, and I don't like that. Anyway, so talking about that, so you've got the one end of the scale where people could just go and spend tens of thousands of pounds, bordering on £100,000, and just go, I can just buy whatever the hell I want, enjoy it. If I don't like it, flog it. It doesn't matter if I lose a few £1,000s, I'll just move on to the next thing. And that's how they end up buying a new car, because it's the convenience. You know, there's when I was on with Michael on the Porsche Cooled podcast, we talked about there's a slight anxiety about the car might break down, but you build up confidence in it, and eventually you'll get it fettled to a point that you know it's not going to break down. By the way, I apologise, it's getting dark. I haven't been able to get out for the milk run until now because it's totally run out, and I'm taking the long way around, in case anyone's wondering. But then at the other end of the scale, so I've seen one on eBay for £22,500, a 911. It needs total, it's like the Flintstone car. There's nothing inside it structurally. There's no floor, there's no seats. A lot of stuff's missing. There's got no engine, no gearbox. So firstly, you need to be a welding genius or have tens of thousands of pounds just to get the body right. I'm talking 20,000, 30,000 pounds just to get the body right. And then probably 30, 40,000 pounds just to buy the parts that it needs, engine, gearbox, all of the wiring, and then interior. All of these things cost a hell of a lot of money. And what you might think is, well, actually, if I buy it I've got my foot on the ladder, but you haven't really. You've just bought yourself a hunk of metal that's no good to anybody. So either you're a welding genius and you can weld up a shell while buying the really expensive parts, floors and things like that, cost a lot of money. And also, it's way worse than you think it is when you buy something that's rusty like that. So you're better off buying the 28 grand and getting somebody to weld it rather than buying the 22.5 one, trying to save £5,500. So it's such a massive spectrum. So if you're buying a classic one, you've got to think, am I going to do the work myself? And then at the same time you think, am I going to do the work over the next 5 years and spend tens of thousands of pounds, up to £50,000 doing the work, gathering the parts? And it'll be every waking hour, that's what I'll be thinking about. I'll be on eBay, I'll be on parts, I'll be on piston heads, I'll be on heritage parts, all massively expensive. Oh, by the way, if you are looking for parts, always look for new parts first, because a lot of people take the piss on eBay and second-hand sites, because a lot of the times they're selling stuff that's twice as much as brand new, and it's just people chancing their arm. Anyway, so yeah, you think, am I a welding genius and I'll be able to work really quickly and get something done within the space of a year and gather all the parts and not break the bank? In which case you're thinking, I should have just bought one that worked, because it'll be the same amount of money without the hassle. Or you can think, well, actually, I can get one, my budget's about 40,000, I know a really genius welder who can do it for an absolute shoestring, and I've got the money for that, and I'll save about 20 grand compared with buying a pucker done up one that I can start driving tomorrow. Now that's significant money, and if you think I have to wait 6 months, it doesn't matter, does it? Because you'll have an amazing car. So it's a complete minefield. And even then, you know, when people are looking at a car going, well, actually it says that it needs a bit of welding and the rest of it's complete, and you think, great, but sometimes it's what's not in the ad that you've got to look out for. Sometimes it won't say that the engine runs, it won't say that it drives great, it won't say that I've been using it. And then you might think, well, hang on, when you start investing in it and doing lots of research in a particular car, you might find, hang on, I've done all this work, I've been thinking about it for weeks, I've been planning out what I would do with it, what my budget is, how long it'll take me to get on the road, but I've not even thought about, hang on, does it run? Is the engine seized? Well, I have to find a new engine, which means it's no longer a matching numbers car, because if you're spending that much money, you do want it to be some kind of investment where you get the money back. Unlikely that you'd lose money unless, you know, you're a bit foolish and went crazy and spent a ton of money, but I don't think you'd lose money. Even, you know, if you bought one, not the £22,500 one, that's just ridiculous. That's for the outside shell of a car with nothing inside it. So what I'd do is, if it was me and I had a very tight budget, I would go and buy that £28,000 one, which is complete. It needs new floors, and you think, well, okay, what I would need to do is I just need to buy the metal. Now, either I go and buy ready-made panels, and I'll keep the outside with its patina looking as it is. Hang on. Goodness. And keeping it as it is, or I go all out and then I need to buy the best panels I can get down store, whatever there might be, patent parts, and then fix it up to absolutely amazing condition, in which case are you really going to use it as much as you would if you just fixed it to get it to a point that you can drive it and leave the outside as it was, or you just know your welder is so good that they can fabricate the parts, in which case, you know, if you said I need a floor pan, I need it fabricated with all the little grooves and things in it to give it the added strength, because some people can do that with presses, then you'd go, actually, if I paid even hundreds of pounds for those, I'm still saving on the thousands that I would pay for ready-made panels. So I think that's my advice, based on me buying a 912 and doing totally tiny research, but since then I've done lots of research, I've reached out to lots of people, I've spoken to lots of people, and it's secure your budget, and obviously you know what you can and can't do. And if you decide I'm going to do it myself, then think about how many parts do I need, what are they going to cost, just broadly, and how long is it going to take me. And then suddenly you might realize that, hang on, it's going to cost me as much as buying a done-up Porsche and take me 2 years at a push, because you're always going to be more ambitious than it's actually going to take 2 years to get it on the road. But then you might go, well, actually, I'll push the boat out a little bit and buy a complete car. That's always a bonus. If it's complete and it's matching numbers, then you just think, I can't really go wrong, even if I just stuck it in the garage for 2 years and did nothing to it. Worst case, it should still be worth what you paid for it. So I think that's where I'd go if you had limited budget and you thought either I'm going to get somebody to do the work for me on a budget, or I'm going to attempt it myself. The people who attempt it themselves, they know what they're capable of, and they're also much better than me, probably, at gauging. That was a 996 silver. At gauging the prices, but sometimes you can just think, well, I'm going to save money on the initial outlay because my initial budget is small, and then as I'm doing the work I'll start buying parts. But that's a false economy, because parts prices are only going up, and you might think, well, those initial buying prices are going up as well, but you might just be buying a money pit that you're going to put a ton of work into, and you're never going to realize the benefit or the pleasure of actually driving it, because it'll get to a point you just think it's too much money, it's too much effort. Your circumstances might change where you lose your garage, or have children, or something in your life changes and you just think, I just need to get rid of it. You might get the money back, but it's a kick in the teeth if you're having to get rid of it and you haven't finished it and you haven't driven it and you haven't owned it that way. But also, even if you look on the Hemmings app and look for cars worldwide, even in the US, they're really expensive unless you find it on a forum and it's not on the open market. Those are the things to consider. I've realized that I've rambled and a lot of it's kind of incoherent. But it's one of those things where you can easily fall into a trap where you've spent a lot of money, and although you're not going to lose that money, you're not realizing the benefit of the benefit of owning a 911 is the pleasure of driving it. So I was tempted to sell my 912 to get that 28,000 911, but then I thought it'll still be something like £10,000 to get that on the road. And then you think, well, I'll have a 2.4, really good one. I think that's a great one. The engine, the 2.4 mechanical fuel injection engine. I've read a lot about it. I've never driven it, and I would love to drive it. But I've heard great things about it. But if you're thinking, well, I need to spend £10,000 just to get the welding done, then what about the rest? What about the brakes? What about suspension? What about the engine? What about the gearbox? What about the wiring? This huge amount, and then you've got tires. So all of those things add up, and suddenly you think, actually, it feels like I'm not that far away from getting on the road, but actually, I'm tens of thousands of pounds away and 2 years away. So I'm very aware of not getting into that trap, because that's what I did with my MG. And although it was the right thing to do at the time, because they were worth a lot of money to buy, even imported from the US, but if you bought one that needed work, they were a lot cheaper. The difference was huge, and you could see, and the parts are so cheap, and they're all readily available brand new. You don't need to scour websites and eBay and all sorts of stuff. You just go to the shop, go to a specialist and buy them brand new, and they're so cheap. They're so easy to work on. So as long as you get the welding done from somebody with panels that you can buy, every single part you can buy. Whereas with Porsches, you could probably buy all the parts new, but they are ridiculously expensive, and they're getting more expensive, it feels like, by the day. So I consider all of those things. I appreciate that it's probably really dark now and you can barely see me, but I'm just pulling up to the shop, and I went a long way around, as I said before. But I'd love to hear from people who are looking for a classic Porsche 911 and what kind of things they're considering, and where they are on when they've got a medium budget that gets you at that sort of, 30 to 40,000. And what are you thinking? Are you thinking I'll import one that I think works and I have the risk of not seeing it beforehand? Or are you thinking I'll just get one that I know I can go and see and I'll do the welding, or I know somebody who'll do the welding for me? It'd just be great to get some real world examples of what people are doing, especially if someone's done it already, and whether they've got something that's just sat in the garage and will be for the next few years, or they're just piling through the work and they're working, every weekend, every evening to get it done. It'd be great to understand. And whether was it worse? Was it better than you thought it would be? I'd love to hear from people. Also, I'm thinking of doing something with Michael on Clubhouse, and I think I've been given an extra invite, so I might send that out to somebody. But it'd be great to just have a topic that we can discuss. There's so many topics when it comes to Porsches, what you talk about. So it'd be really great if everybody could just send through some ideas. And I'm about to pull up to the milk shop. It's not the milk shop, it's the co-op, which is the milk shop. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. Please hit subscribe. Please hit like, and please comment if you've got something to share. I think I'm not heading towards becoming an influencer or anything like that, but I love hearing from people, and I love having that two-way dialogue. So hopefully I'll hear from you soon. Thank you very much.